Good afternoon, collectors and friends. Welcome to Trading Card Therapy, episode number 49. Thanks for tuning in and joining us. I hope all is well. We're going to get right into it with a few things that I would like to cover today. So the first is kind of interesting. It's short and sweet. I recently got back this E90-1 Eddie Plank, and I love this card. I love that style of hat, and for 1.5, it actually looks pretty good. It's wickedly off center, top to bottom. It does have a stamping on the back. That town in New York doesn't mean much to me. I want to show this off on Instagram. So just to be clear, when I reveal what I'm about to share, I'm not suggesting I'm right. I'm just sharing with you one particular collector. Yes, I'm a dealer. I'm actually a professional baseball card treasure hunter. However, today, in this particular case, I'm talking about this card being a collector. I love the E90-1 Eddie Plank. I actually sold at a 1914 Cracker Jack Eddie Plank that I think I obtained it from someone in the Vintage Breaks community. About a year or 2 years ago, I decided to sell it for a number of reasons. And, at the moment, I don't have an Eddie Plank that I love in my collection. So I wanted to share with everyone what I'm thinking about doing. I've done this before. So when I get in a valuable card like this that I enjoy and maybe even want to keep, but I don't necessarily love the condition and or the grade that it's in. So once again, this is a very nice 1.5 just in terms of eye appeal. Believe it or not, the stickler for me is the centering. If the card was better centered, I would like it a little bit more. And the stamp on the back doesn't bother me as much. However, I looked on eBay, and I'm not suggesting eBay is the end-all, be-all of marketplaces. But of course, if you want an E90-1 Eddie Plank in low to mid-grade, it's probably the number one place everyone would go. Other people might check out net54baseball.com. That's a message board group. Others might check out, like, for example, Blowout Cards has a forum. PSA has a forums group. Lots of people interact, like, in pre-war groups on Facebook. I don't necessarily have the bandwidth and the time to do that. And so for me, I just hit eBay, and they had an SGC3 of this card for like about $4,000, but they have a 2.5 of this card for about $1,600. So here's the thing that I find interesting and cool. I don't necessarily know if the 2.5 is a good deal, but when you look at the 2.5 on eBay versus the 3, it does not cost $2,500 more to buy a half grade on this card. So just follow my logic. Assuming that this is a fair price for the 2.5, I have every intention of simply selling this 1.5, and then I'm going to roll in the money that I get in for this card, plus, of course, additional funds, and then I'm going to get a 2.5 of this card that I have no intention of selling for a long time. And you might say, like, well, wait, where's the lesson? Here's the deal. Don't hold on to this card as a placeholder. Don't decide to do it to buy it now and, like, you're going to wait till it sells. Because I can tell you, I just checked eBay this morning. I was going to buy a box. Yep. When something's a fair deal, it doesn't matter what marketplace it's on. It generally sells pretty quick, or I would say at the very least, faster than the other overpriced items that clearly just sit there day in and day out. So I'm going to do some further research on the 2.5, assuming it's within my price range. I'm going to strike what I think is to be a fair deal for that. And then, because thankfully I can float the funds, I'm going to pay for the 2.5. I will then simply sell this at auction. And, hope, of course, it goes for a lot. If you wanted to be patient, you could sell this at fixed price, buy it now. But I don't want to be in that game. I just want to know what my 2.5 is going to cost me. And net, after selling this with including some money, I know I'll be a happier collector going after this E90-1 Eddie Plank. Next up is the highlights of a pre-war vintage 1950s baseball card collection we recently acquired here at Just Collect. It is nearly 1,500 cards. We actually bought this individual's football card collection about a month before. If you'd like to see the story, On that collection, you can check out our blog at blog.justcollect.com. Getting back to the baseball, when she sold us the football, she said, well, I'm glad you like the football. I think you're going to like the baseball even more. Ah, what do you mean? The football is great. And a Johnny Unitas rookie, a Bart Starr, some really great 50s cards. She said, well, the baseball is more extensive. So what's sitting in front of me, I'm going to now turn on the camera on our show. What's sitting in front of me is a stack. Every one of these cards is from this recently acquired collection. And they are almost all stars and Hall of Famers from the 1950s. So before I show you the stack, I wanted to explain to you how I value a collection like this, because I get asked this all the time. When we get approached with a collection of cards that is in volume, call it hundreds or thousands, unless it's sets, we have a process where we will pull every major card of consequence, and the rest of it will be left in what we would call the balance of the collection. It makes it easier to streamline like that. And you're going to see some of the cards we pull, of course, are the biggies, like the Mantles, the Mays, the Aarons, any major rookies. But we even pull some of the, call it middle of the road Hall of Famers, like Phil Rizzuto and Eddie Matthews. What's really great about this collection, you're going to start off a little bit slow, like the 55 Bowman Mantle is one of my favorite cards. But these are just like middle of the road. You might say, well, wait, I would be happy with these, and I'm happy with these as well. However, what was very unusual about this particular collection, portions of it were found in extremely high-grade condition. So without further ado, I'm going to take you through the 55 Bowmans. We'll then pause. I believe the 1958 Topps are next. Here's a 55 Bowman Mays. Here is a 55 Bowman Ernie Banks. And by the way, we're going to do something really fun. Here is a Yogi Berra from the collection. Here is a Roy Campanella. I am a big fan of the new Yogi series, or the documentary on Netflix. So stay tuned. After this episode posts to our Trading Card Therapy Instagram page, we're going to give away this 1955 Bowman Yogi Berra on our Instagram. So make sure you stay tuned for details. But of course, it's holiday time, and we'd like to share with you all some of our vintage baseball cards that we found recently. So there's the Campy, very sharp. Here's the Reese. I mean, you can see very nice left to right, top to bottom, also pretty sharp. And the corners, I mean, this is a really nice, fresh 55 Bowman Reese. And Reese was one of Jackie Robinson's earliest friends on the Brooklyn Dodgers when he joined the team. Eddie Matthews, Whitey Ford. We got one more card in the 55s. This one tends to be a little bit sharper as well. Excuse me. Here's the Kaline. Kaline Sharp. All right, so now the cards get a little bit nicer. Here is, I've shown off some of these on Leighton's Loft before, but never the full stack. So check this out. This is a fresh to market, gorgeous. I mean, at first glance, the card looks like near mint, almost near mint to mint. 1958 Topps smoking. Number 150, Mickey Mantle. Hope you're enjoying this content. This is the kind of stuff you'd find here regularly at Trading Card Therapy. We're hoping in 2024, we're going to come at you with a weekly episode. This is our 49th. We'll have our 50th by the end of the year, and hopefully another 50 next year, one a week. Here's a really sweet Roger Maris rookie, very well centered, sharp. Just you can see the color is a little bit off, unfortunately. I'm sure something happened in the printing process. Nice 58 Mays. Once again, just check out the colors and the corners on these 58s. There is a really nice 58 yellow letter Hank Aaron. Wow. Fresh Cepeda rookie. Zimmer yellow variation. McDougal yellow variation. All right. Here's the last couple. One of my favorite sets of the 1950s. Oh, excuse me. I have to get the phone as it just fell. Pardon me on Instagram. Oop. I just realized that. Yeah, there we go. Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Yes, there we go. Apologize. We will try again to start showing you the 1953 Bowman color. Appreciate your patience there. Anyway, we have a really nice group of 1953 Bowman color cards. One of my favorite cards ever. Pee Wee Reese. That's a beauty. Classic baseball scene. Also one of my favorite cards from the 50s. There he is in his follow through, Mickey Mantle. Duke Snider's pretty sharp. So these are all the cards that we pulled as we were evaluating the collection. I'll go through a little bit faster. There's a Musial. And we evaluated these each individually. Came up to a total in the end. This was easily a 5-figure deal. The full story will be on our blog at blog.justcollect.com. I mean, this mantle really looks near mint to mint other than the centering. If you're lucky, you'd squeeze a 6 out of this because of the centering. That's a beaut. Some of the 57s are really sharp. Mays is OC. Robinson's OC. Both Brooks and Franks. We'll show these off as well. Still nice to see them with sharp corners like that. Wow, number 1 card in the set. So these are the types of cards that we love to acquire here at Just Collect. There's a Maz rookie, Jim Bunning, and Drysdale rookie. So some of the key rookies to the 57 top set, which, by the way, we did just list a 1957 tops set break on our website at vintagebreaks.com. Here is a fresh group of 1954 tops baseball. Really love that color on the Jackie. Mays, K-Line rookie, Teddy Ballgame, fairly well centered. Don't forget, we're giving away a 55 Berra. I'm going to show that off at the end of the show today. All right. Here is some of the 54 Bowman, including yet another Mickey Mantle in this collection. Really nice 54 Bowman Mays. Let me show those off here on Instagram. Number 1 card in the set, the Rizzuto. That's a nice card. Wow. Great corners on these. You got Dead Nuts Barrow. Now, stay tuned after these 56s because the last topic of the show is going to be a fun one. All right. These, to me, are the nicest cards in the collection. Some just beautiful, gorgeous 1956 Topps baseball, fresh to the market. Look at that Jackie. Delicious. Just goes to show you that collections are still out there. So do yourself a favor, keep your eyes and ears open in your own community. You never know what you're going to find. Hey, what's up, James? Thanks for tuning in. I agree with you, DPN. Absolutely. Here's a 56 Clemente. Very sharp, just a little OC. What's shaking, Tom? Like I said, the 56s. Oh, I want to make sure I show these off on. I think I showed this off on Instagram already, but just to confirm, here's a Clemente and then Koufax. Aparicio rookie, Hall of Fame. I mean, this thing could 8, maybe an 8.5. Aaron and Mays. Make sure you subscribe to the show so that way you know each and every time next year we'll be dropping new content on Trading Card Therapy. There is one of the greatest hitters that ever lived, Eddie Ballgame. Sharp Eddie Matthews. All right. I'll just kind of go through these. There we go. Nice barrel. Man. Oh, let's even look at this barrel. That's a beautiful card. We do have a 1956 Topps Baseball Set Break coming soon to VintageBreaks.com. Not related to this particular group of 56s, but that set in particular is also nice. So don't forget, folks, stay tuned. Follow us. We will explain to you how you can win this really nice 1955 Bowman Yogi Berra. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to tag our friends at SGC, and we will grade this on the house with them for whoever wins this. So make sure you stay tuned for the details. All right. I've been wanting to talk about this all episode. It really has nothing to do with cards, but certainly with collecting. I'm not sure how to do this or how to handle this. I guess we'll start talking and telling the story. Robert Edwards Auctions, REA, recently had a fantastic auction and highlighted by the 1914 Baltimore News Babe Ruth that sold for about $7.2 million. And of course, if I had the funds, I'd love to buy it. Tuck it away with all the other cards I would never sell if I was a baseball card Scrooge and had all the money in the world. So that being said, I always try to keep an eye in their auction for not just, of course, inventory, but also, I would say, different items. And not just different items that I may maybe put away for just collect and buy it and maybe sit on it for a year, sell it later because I think it's got good value. Because I do that stuff as well. Excuse me. But in particular, I am drawn to photography. I love photography. I collect old photos, but I also collect, I would call them new photos. New photos, of course, of my son, Crosby, but him aside, whether it be something interesting of nature or someone who played in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s that I enjoyed watching, I'm not hesitant at looking at a photograph as a piece of art and as a collectible, meaning I paid real money for photographs in the past. And I've also sold, not many, I've sold some photographs. And in fact, one of the best photographs I've ever had in my collection, I did sell it, unfortunately. I have a high-res copy of it, but I know it's a copy. Not that being said, I do enjoy it still. That particular photo was of Wilt Chamberlain scoring his 100th point in Hershey, Pennsylvania, decades ago. And believe it or not, I've never seen another photo depicting that very moment in a Wire photo since. I'm not sure you will. I think, of course, it should have sold for more, but at the time I was buying a house and thought it would be prudent of me to, of course, help out, pitch in, and do what I could to try to make that house happen. So that, I think, photo sold several years ago at REA. And if you want to see what it sold for, it sold for, you can look up what it sold for at robertedwardsauctions.com. I believe it sold somewhere in the $11,000 to $12,000 range, but that's one of very few photos I've sold. And to be clear, I wish I had it back. The original, that is, because I have the laser copy. So, brings me to the auction that ended recently at REA. I found some photos that I enjoyed in the auction. I bid on them. In fact, I showed some of them off today, earlier, on our 9th episode of The Lunch Crew. So I'd encourage you, that show typically runs on Thursdays at noon with my buddy Chris Gilmore of Vintage Breaks infamy. And it's great content because it not just talks about vintage, but really I'm learning about modern. I feel like Chris is learning about vintage, and we're hoping that the community is learning about all of it, or none of it, and think it's no good. But either way, let us know. We are having fun with it. We're about to hit our 10th episode. So getting back to center, I'm bidding in REA. I place initial bid on this lot. I'm going to give you some clues now. There's 3 photos in the lot. I believe the initial bid was $300. So when I first started bidding, I don't know if you've ever done this, but when I bid in an auction, especially if it's something from my PC, I'm like, oh, I'm going to win this. And I would say rarely do I not accomplish that goal, right? Because the only thing separating you from that goal at that point is money. And I'm certainly not suggesting I have an unlimited amount, quite the opposite. But I had some thoughts as to what I believe the photos were going to sell for. But you know the way auctions work. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then the final day. So in that particular auction, I actually consigned my 1915 Cracker Jack Shoeless Joe Jackson. In that auction, we'll talk about that on a different episode of Trading Card Therapy because I found the whole experience to be interesting. I consigned other things as well. But I wanted to take you through the mind of a collector and truly what happened to me on the final day of REA. Bidding for many of my items started to stall, even though I was happy enough. I'm like, all right, let me start looking at what I'm going to buy, buying lots of inventory for both Just Collect and Vintage Breaks. But when I say something for my PC, I mean for my PC, nothing to do with Just Collect, nothing to do with Vintage Breaks. So, man, have you guys ever been there when your heart gets set in? And let me just show you what they are. And clearly you can see I won them. But I want to take you through my thinking behind it and what I had to do to rationalize winning these. But, man, am I happy. I'm thinking about selling one of them because I definitely want to keep 2. But really, I'd like to keep all of them. But I'm considering selling one. And I'm going to have you guys guess, or at least maybe you think about which one you would sell if you were going to only keep 2 of these 3 and how to sell one. So without further ado, this is a lot of 3 1996 Kobe Bryant McDonald's All-American original photos. I have a number of amazing Michael Jordan photos in my collection. But man, I loved Kobe growing up. I still admire Kobe. Good buddy Darren Ravel interviewed Kobe, saw that Mamba mentality. Excuse me, and if you look at each of these 3 photos, they show just such a young, focused Kobe Bryant at the McDonald's All-American, call it festivities, right? There was a game. I believe there was a slam dunk contest. So check this out up close. It's a young Kobe signing for fans. So as I'm showing these to you, keep in mind, the bidding started off at $300. There's the back of it, by the way. It's stamped April 1996, so his rookie year. He went pro later that year. I paid for these 3 photos over $2,700. So over $900 a photo. There is a young Kobe looking extremely determined in a McDonald's red uniform. And McDonald's is known across the world. This is also stamped. Excuse me, this is not stamped. I apologize. Yes, it is stamped. Yes, it's just in light ink there. So I love this photo as well. And then the last photo is of Kobe. My guess is in some sort of slam dunk contest, but I'm doing research as we speak. If anyone knows anything about the 1996 McDonald All-American Games, please send me a DM. All right. So now that you know that I won them, believe me, I didn't think they were going to go for this much. I didn't think I was going to go that far for them. I almost let them go several times. But I started to look around at what it would cost to just simply buy one of these photos. And I don't mean of this particular group, but an early Kobe Bryant photograph. So what happened was in my research, I found that it wasn't going to be easy to obtain something early that I was going to like and or not cost an arm and a leg. So I don't know if you've ever done this, but I can tell you this is what I did to rationalize buying these 3 photographs. Instead of thinking about it as $2,700 and change of outlaying for these, I mean, I love these photos. And please let me know in the comments which photo you would sell out of the 3 or which 2 would you keep. Either way, I'll let you know in the future my thoughts. So I'm going after these photos and I'm like, oh my God, Jesus criminy. I got to do something. What am I going to sell? And it really just more became, hey, I'm going to outlay the money for this. I'm simply going to sell that or this group. And I'm going to consider it a trade. I'm not going to think about it as if I spent $2,700. For example, if I sold some T206s, T205, whatever the case is, I was going to think about it as a trade. Because for me, that was a little bit easier of a pill to swallow. Because I would love to trade someone for these Kobe Bryant photos I can't find anywhere else. But no one was willing to trade them to me. I had to trade cash. But I'm going to sell some of the collectibles that were cards, memorabilia, that maybe didn't have as much meaning to me, clearly, as these photos do. And so I don't think about it as I spent potentially an inappropriate amount of money on these photos, but maybe I gave up a little bit too much in trade, and that just feels a lot better. And when you're talking about collecting, isn't that what we're talking about? We're talking about how the stuff makes you feel. Like, why did I buy these? I didn't necessarily buy them for investment. I don't really have intention of selling maybe one of them just to offset some of the $2,700 outlay of the purchase price. However, and this is what we're going to close with, the hobby gods have a mysterious way of working. I should not have bought these. I had no right to pay this kind of money, at least in my own opinion, right? Maybe I'm being a harsh critic to myself. But if you don't know, there's a particular player in the T206 set named Steve Evans. He's on the Cardinals. And a few weeks back, I had some cards to price at home. And when I went to go price a T206 Steve Evans, I'm like, there was either none or like virtually no examples available. And so I saw something strange going on. It looked like someone might be buying them up. And indeed, someone has. If you're watching, thank you very much. But they were buying Steve Evans cards over the last several weeks to the tune of, for example, some lower grade cards of Steve Evans were going for $500 to $2,000. Well, I sold my last Steve Evans, I believe, in a 4 right before I believe this individual stopped buying a bulk of them for about $2,000. So sometimes the hobby gods work in mysterious ways. And when you think about if I just traded a common that I don't really have much use for, but that common Steve Evans, because I've heard some things on Net 54 about this, the person's nuts, they don't know what they're doing, and maybe they don't. But maybe they just like the way that hoarding makes them feel of these Steve Evans cards. I'm not suggesting they couldn't do it in a way that they might spend less money. That's true. But make no mistake, I don't believe they're buying the cards because they think they're going to resell them and make more money. I don't believe that. They're buying them because of the way that they make them feel. Well, did I really do anything different with these Kobe Bryant photos? I didn't. Don't let folks tell you what's right or wrong in the hobby. Drown out the noise, enjoy your journey. And with that, our 3 new Kobe Bryant photos are signing off on Trading Card Therapy, episode number 49. Thanks, everybody.